As part of my research into humans, I decided to investigate some of their popular media. You can learn a lot about a culture by examining what kind of stories they choose to write about and read about. In theory, this will be a reflection of the society that created these stories. Now, let's see if that holds true for Chainsaw Man. First, I made a poll on Twitter to see if I should watch the anime or read the manga. Originally, I planned to read the first volume and make a video about it, but I ended up breezing through the second volume, and a bit more as well. Chainsaw Man has a decent chapter length and plenty of text per page, but I still found it incredibly easy to keep reading. I wanted to know more about the story and the characters. I quite enjoyed the flashbacks in particular. They were always presented in a very brief way, well-paced, and densely packed with information that adds to the context of the story and makes it even better. So, Chainsaw Man takes place in a world populated by devils. Now, these devils represent various aspects of that world. When humans become more afraid of something, the power of that devil also grows. Himeno and Makima had some interesting philosophical views on the nature of these devils and society. One passage I found interesting is when they talked about how society became more regulated after people became more concerned about the devils, and the media began to restrict people's access to information. Now, from a utilitarian point of view, it sounds very practical to stop people from learning about the devils, so they won't become scared, and so the devils won't get any stronger. On the other hand, it almost felt like the fear of these devils was creating a society that was less free and easier to control. The art does a great job of creating a claustrophobic sense of dread in the right circumstances, but I noticed that they used the same effect for the sake of humor as well. This juxtaposition made me laugh even harder at some of the reaction panels. The manga has an interesting style of humor that tends to set you up with certain expectations and then hits you with a surprise punchline. The characters have very interesting relationships and interactions. There's a few pairings that do have genuine loyalty towards each other, but I felt like there were plenty of characters who just kind of bickered. They would stab each other in the back at a moment's notice, and this typically led to even more comedy. Right now, I would probably say my favorite character is Power. Her and Denji don't get along at first, later on they do. This seems like a typical character dynamic, but I got the feeling that she would kind of still betray him. She's very absurd, very hilarious, and I loved that. So, how did this story reflect on human society? Well, I think the author is probably very familiar with a world where underappreciated workers are pushed to their limit by an uncaring system of management, all for the sake of basic survival, kind of like Denji working for the Devil Hunters. At the start of the story, Denji had nothing, he was living a miserable life, and the only solace he's really gained so far is that he kind of sort of learned to appreciate the very few things he's been given, but he still needs to risk his life regularly. He goes through grueling endeavors, and yet he is happy. So, if there's any lesson or any theme here, it seems like only an insane person like Denji is capable of thriving in such a system. This is basically the conclusion that Himeno comes to at the end of the Eternity Devil battle. So, is the world insane? Do we need to be insane in order to be happy? Is it a bit of both? Or does the author just really enjoy drawing women in suits, and I am reading way too deep into this? If you enjoyed my video, please leave a comment giving me suggestions on which anime or manga to talk about next. If you like and subscribe, it helps me a lot. And you could even follow me on Twitter. The first person to follow me on Twitter will get a kiss from Himeno.